Inside his pyramid on the ancient planet of Elithia, Deus, Elithia's patriarch, listens as the voice of a sacred dream book reaffirms his sleep visions of another expedition to the planet of Terralu.
A beautiful woman is blinded by visions of immortality and falls to sleep in a flower field. A star machine floats down into the scented voids of summer. A child is born. A healer of spirits walks across the deep currents of the faraway sea. The suffering are comforted. The dying are healed. The dead are reborn. The healer of spirits ascends to the stars. Terralu sinks below the fiery horizons of an alien sun. Faces look up. The sky stands still.
Terralu. So many expeditions. So little progress. So many of our sons and daughters lost. 1,000 years, and it's just beginning.
Deus?
Oh, come in and sit with me, Sibella.
Has the book reaffirmed that we're returning to the Veda sector of Terralu?
Yes, and it told me about the woman. Her name is Aram. She's young and strong and beautiful, and she's never known the Darkbringer virus.
Elishaba had never known the virus either. Do they share the same blood?
Yes. And because they do, the embryon child implanted in Elishaba during the last expedition and the embryon child of this expedition will share the times to come. How are things progressing at Kalava?
The ship was moved to Dome 3 at sunset for fueling and ancillary pre-flight maintenance.
Has Aram's embryon child been taken aboard?
Yes. Lyria took him into the ship's nucleus chamber at moonrise. How will it end?
Tears, blood, a heart pierced with metal.
And what will become of us? Will we return to Elithia?
The book didn't know, Sibella. Where the journey back should have been, there was only silence. Well, it's getting late, Sibella. We'd better start for Kalava.
At the edge of the wide canal that flows past the pyramid, Deus and Sibella board a slender, transparent metal windship and settle into the deep cockpit behind the bow. Touching 3 small fluorescent prisms on the control console, Sibella interfaces the windship's guidance system with Elithia's central canal link encoder.
Your request for automatic guidance parameters has been received, Sibella. Your vessel will proceed from the Avatar Pyramid tributary through the Lusaw Canal intersect to the Tamil Imbria tributary arch. Automatic guidance will be terminated and manual control returned as you pass beneath the arch and approach the Kalava subcanal.
Half an hour later, the windship sails out into the Lusaw Canal intersect, the vast artificial lagoon where all of Elithia's equatorial waterways converge. Deus settles back in his seat, looks up at Elithia's 3 moons, and slowly wills himself into a memory trance that takes his mind 1,000 years into the past. 2 Elithian drone flyers have been orbiting Terralu, the only inhabited planet in the void of the 9 worlds. During their 13th orbit, the 2 laboratory drones have discovered something unexpected and ominous. Deus is called to Elithia's exobionic observatory, where scanner data from the 2 flyers is being decoded and analyzed.
Have you confirmed it, Diavas?
Yes. Sit here beside me, Deus. I'll transfer the visual data to the wall screen.
A geological image of multi-layered earth and volcanic rock fluoresces onto the large triangular wall monitor. Embedded in one of the layers are the mummified bodies of 3 nude humanoid women and the remains of 5 long black skeletons. Each skeleton lies against a secondary pattern of thin, black bones. The bones of what were once large, bat-like wings. The skulls resembled the heads of ebony gargoyles.
Another world contaminated by Darkbringers. When did it happen?
19 light eons ago, just as Terralu was entering its third neuroevolution. They lived in caves then, Deus, and ate the flesh of things that crawled and flew.
How large was the attack force?
1 Darkbringer legion, probably an inquest unit. They invaded the cave settlement, killed the males and children, and then attacked the females.
Why didn't the assault extend beyond that one area?
The region was destroyed during the attack by a first-magnitude stratoconvulsion and volcanic eruptions.
Have the reproductive organs of the dead females been analyzed?
Drone flyer Erebus transmitted its scanner analysis last night. The bodies of all 3 females contain traces of calcified Darkbringer insemination fluid.
Have you received a retrospective survival projection?
There were over 800 female survivors. All of them inseminated during the assault. None of their newborns had any physical Darkbringer characteristics, but they all emerged from their parent mothers, saturated with the Darkbringer anti-light virus.
Has the virus evolved with them?
This morning, from an orbital distance of 300 nemavectors, drone Septus hemoscanned the entire population of Terralu. It saw the virus in the blood and bone marrow of every male and female, regardless of tribe or age.
And has the virus affected them in the same way it affected us?
There are variations, even some resistance at first. But in time, the virus flourishes, and the inner light grows dark. There's only one choice, isn't there?
Yes, an expedition. We know the inner light can be resurrected through induced evolution meditations. We proved that here. We proved it on Anianus and Telluria. Diavus, do you see any reason why our spirit magicians couldn't teach the meditations on Terralu?
I see 2 reasons. The anti-light disease wasn't as advanced on those planets. And where Anianus and Telluria were both entering an age of radiance when the invasions came, Terralu is still hyper-primitive and superstitious. It would be impossible to land ships there without terrifying. Our teachers will have to come to Terralu from within, not from without.
Embryons.
Yes. Created from your blood and implanted in their females. It would take time. It would be difficult. It would be dangerous. But in the end, the virus would be neutralized. The light would be resurrected, and Terralu would no longer be divided against itself.
Diavus.
Deus?
Ah, Sibella. I was just remembering an old friend, and 100 other nights like this, and 100 other expeditions. 1,000 years. And it's just beginning.
Deus, was the book able to calculate the time lapse between our departure from Elithia tonight and our penetration of Terralu's gravity veil?
Yes. 11 solar days, 9 phenometers.
When will we make contact with Aram?
3 phenometers past sunrise on the morning of the 12th day. She'll be alone in a field near a village, gathering red and white flowers.
Red and white. Blood and purity.
Yes. The 2 elements that will haunt Aram to the end of her days.
Deus, Sibella, you are now approaching the Taniel Imbria tributary arch. As you pass beneath it, automatic guidance will be terminated, and manual control of your windship will be returned. May the spirits of the 12 Lords of Light be with you on your journey to Terralu.
As the canal link override terminates, Sibella touches a control prism, which activates a triple row of bright rectangular lights in the bow. Then she steers the windship through the wide Tenille-Imbria tributary and enters the narrow Calava subcanal. A few moments later, the slim, transparent vessel glides across a small lagoon and docks at the edge of the Calava Starflight complex. The complex is a vast, circular plain, flawlessly paved with interlocking triangles of white gemstone and red fire crystal. Hundreds of hexagon-shaped lamps free float around the perimeter, focusing brilliant light on 6 enormous copper-colored domes, a triple row of sun towers, and the primary launch arena. At the Calava dock, Deus and Sibella secure their windship and board a small hover drone which takes them across the gemstone and fire crystal plain to Dome 3. Inside the dome's airlock, Deus and Sibella remove their long, dark cloaks and fold them into a small compartment in the wall. Later, they enter the dome's asepsis chamber and close their eyes and stand motionless as antiseptic light and sound sterilize their hair, skin, and outer garments. Then, a large circular hatch irises open in front of them, and they step through into the dazzling light of the dome's interior. In the center of the dome is Alithia's most powerful and complex starship, a huge ovaloid spacecraft created from organically grown metals. It rests heavily on 3 massive pneumatic parking spheres and dwarfs the 50 technicians who move over its seamless, polished metal surface. Parked in front of the starship are 3 teardrop-shaped tug crawlers, their transparent canopies slid open. 6 technicians string thin metal cables between the rear of the crawlers and towing rings on the ship.
What do the inhabitants of Terra think happens to them after death?
They believe that if they live lives of kindness and affection, their dream selves transmigrate to the serenities of Empiria.
And if they live negative lives?
Then their dream selves transmigrate to the fires of Stygia.
But those regions were destroyed during the subvoid annihilations.
The Darkbringer archipelago had its genesis in the fires of Stygia long before the annihilations. But as life was evolving on its surface, the archipelago left its orbit and passed through Empiria. And in this passing, Empiria's light began to destroy the Darkbringer primitives. But they survived and continued to evolve under the delusion that physical and spiritual light were their deadliest enemies.
In the center of the starship's nucleus chamber, the primary Genesis tank floats 1 meter above the floor. Inside the transparent egg-shaped tank, suspended in a shimmering mist of chill vapor, is the tiny embryon child. He floats on his side, delicate fingers curled against his face, eyes closed, dreaming of the warmly scented summer voices that lie ahead, and the beautiful woman who will end the chemical winter in which he sleeps.
Just look at him, Sibella. He's beautiful.
He takes after his father, Deus.
Lyria, is 12 solar days still the maximum span he'll be safe in cryosleep?
I was able to extend it to 15 days by altering the inversion factor of the chill vapor crystals. But 15 is the zero-time maximum. Any longer, and the altered crystals will begin to neutralize his cellular divinity.
Zuriel, have you calculated our time to Terra Lu's gravity veil?
11 solar days, 9 phenometers.
Is that an absolute calculation?
Absolutely.
Why are you so amused, Deus?
11 solar days, 9 phenometers is precisely what the book said.
It also said we're returning to the Vita sector for an encounter with a beautiful young woman named Aram.
Zuriel, have you synthesized a copy of the book?
I don't synthesize books, Sabella. I only synthesize nimbus filters.
So I've heard.
Zuriel, how did you know about Aram in the Vita sector?
Aram's neuropulse is the only one in the bioindex terminal free of viral contamination. When I scanned the pulse, I found a first magnitude Vita sector imprint.
It seems you've finally become as wise as the book, Zuriel.
Zuriel, are we coming back from this expedition?
I don't know.
You're right, Lyria. He has become as wise as the book. It didn't know either.
Deus, may I see you for a moment?
Yes, Carmus. Where are you?
I'm in the systems index chamber.
Zuriel, you and Sabella go into the guidance chamber and begin the pre-launch procedures. Lyria, we'll have our usual talk after void entry. Is there a technical problem, Carmus?
No. The problem isn't technical, although technology was involved.
I don't understand.
I know we're returning to the Vita sector of Terralu, and I know the woman's name is Aram.
Zuriel?
No, I knew before Zuriel did. I was so curious to know where we were going that I got carried away and synthesized a copy of the book last night.
Carmus.
Yes, Deus.
Is nothing sacred?
Inside the dome, the 3 tug crawlers inch forward, tightening the thin towing cables that connect them to the ship. A huge section of the dome wall slides open. The tug crawlers move through the opening toward the brightly lit launch arena. Behind them, the giant starship rolls forward on its massive parking spheres. In the guidance chamber, Deus, Sabella, and Zuriel sit in cushioned pod chairs, facing a massive instrument console. Its dark metal surface, alive with control prisms, regulator diodes, sequencer jewels, interface crystals, and iridescent decoder keys.
Start the pre-emanation cycle on the artificial gravity radiators, Sabella.
Interior gravity is stable at E.3. Grav factor links are sequenced to convert to E.9 during corridor penetration and E.12.1 at void entry.
Deus, an ion storm is forming in the penetration corridor over Illyria.
Carmus, we need a revised launch velocity.
Just a moment. A launch velocity of KPS .660 will take us through the storm before its primary spectrum collision phase.
KPS .660.
Sabella, engage the exterior hyperlight coils when we launch. Ion storms are too unpredictable not to take precautions.
Yes, Deus.
The ship is in position, Deus, and the towing vehicles have cleared the launch arena.
Engage the ancillary pulse drive reactor, Sabella.
Reactor engagement confirmed. Solar power matrix is stable at multiple sublinks 8, 18, and 80.
All ship register encoders, guidance optics, and inverter grids are hyperlinked and scanning.
Release the parking spheres, Sabella.
A hexagon-shaped hatch irises open in the bottom of the ship, and a huge gleaming tripod slowly telescopes down. Thick, metal-flecked shock pads unfold from the tip of each tripod leg and press against the launch arena's white gemstone floor. The ship raises slightly, releasing the parking spheres which slowly roll away into the anchoring depressions at the arena's perimeter.
Pod chair emergency ejection hatches are armed. Pod chair floater cone nozzles are in phase.
REM scale time to launch is Tricon 0.3.1.
Retract the tripod, Zuriel.
The bright metal tripod withdraws into the ultraviolet glow of its storage bay, leaving the huge Elythian starship suspended 25 meters above the arena. 9 round ports iris open around the concealed tripod hatch, releasing thin beams of dazzling white light. Lurid exhaust vents blast raw magnetic waste against the arena floor, raising a translucent wave of fine white dust which rolls out over the anchored parking spheres.
REM scale time is terminated. Primary reactor interlock at binary 2.3.1.
Crimson hyperlight blink on around the edge of the ship. Then the huge spacecraft slowly rotates 90 degrees and begins its majestic ascent. At an altitude of 30 demivectors, the ship is a tiny ovaloid shadow at 9 pinpoints of light. At 120 demivectors, the starship banks 18 degrees, angles up, and races toward the penetration corridor over Illyria. Suddenly, a section of the corridor ceiling tears away, and a sucking vacuum of ionized winds lash out, trying desperately to draw the ship up into its crushing vortex. Then, as suddenly as it began, the crisis is over, and the ship accelerates out through Ilithia's shimmering aurora sphere into the starlit serenity of deep space.
Is our embryon child safe, Lyria?
Yes, Deus. Safe and sleeping.
Have you decided what his name will be?
His name is the word the ancient thought magicians used to describe the power of the inner self. The word is Jesus, and it means I am become the healer of worlds.
Earthlight was written by Ron Thompson and starred Olin Soule as Deus, Lucy Taylor as Sibella, Mel Wells as Karmas, Byron Kane as Zuriel, Susan Silo as Lyria, and Lorene Tuttle as Diabas. Associate producer Ron Thompson. Engineer Stu Jacobs. Music director Tom Rounds. Assistant to the producer Jim Cook. Technical consultant Peter Sky. Alien Worlds was created, produced, and directed by Lee Hansen. And so until next week, this is Roger Dressler inviting you to join us for our next adventure, The Seeds of Time, from the elsewhere and elsewhen of Alien